Since I was 14, I paid for every Christmas. This year, my parents' favorite 25-year-old baby texted me, "Guess what, big bro? You pay, I belong." When I showed up anyway, Mom smirked, pushed a box outside, and said, "Here's your special gift." Then she slammed the door in my face. Inside was a letter transferring a six-figure debt into my name. I whispered, "Merry Christmas." 2 days later, my lawyer delivered a holiday gift they won't forget. Since I was 14, I have paid for every Christmas. The first time was when Dad lost his job. Mom said, "We're cutting back this year, honey. I know you understand." I nodded and dipped into my after-school savings. That was the beginning, the quiet expectation, the silent contract no one signed but everyone enforced. Every year after that, I covered more: the gifts, the decorations, the catering when Mom didn't feel like cooking, the hotel rooms when relatives flew in, the credit card payments that magically shifted into my name. It became routine. Big bro will handle it. I handled it. This year was supposed to be no different until I got the text. "Guess what, big bro?" It was from my sister, Rachel. "You pay, I belong." That was her entire message. No Merry Christmas, no emojis, just that. I stared at it for a long time. The quiet rage didn't come immediately. First, it was that cold emptiness, the same one that's been growing year after year. Rachel, their precious 25-year-old baby, who's never worked a full-time job, who still lives at home rent-free, who once called me boring because I budget my finances, now mocks me like I was their family accountant. I didn't reply. I didn't call. But I still showed up on Christmas Eve. I parked at the curb. The driveway was packed: my parents, Rachel, her boyfriend, and even Aunt Susan, who hadn't visited in years. The house glowed warm through the frosted windows. Laughter leaked through the seams. I carried one box, no bags of gifts like every other year, just one small box. Mom answered the door. She looked smug. "Oh, you came," she said, her voice light but sharp. "Well, here's your special gift." She shoved the box into my hands and slammed the door. I stood there, breath clouding in the cold air. Inside the box was a single envelope. I opened it: legal paperwork, debt transfer documents, 6 figures of credit card balances, all in my name. I whispered to the night air, "Merry Christmas." I stood there, holding that box in the freezing air, feeling something inside me snap, not anger, not shock, something colder. But the truth is, it didn't start tonight. It started years ago. The first time was small, just some extra groceries because Dad got laid off early that winter. Mom called it pitching in. She smiled when I handed her my part-time paycheck. I felt proud, helpful, and useful. That's how it started: small, subtle, harmless. Every year after that, I covered a little more. By 17, I was paying for the tree and half the presents. By 19, I was covering Rachel's first college deposit after she forgot to apply for scholarships. By 22, I was co-signing credit cards because Mom said, "It'll help your sister build credit." When Dad's second business collapsed, it was, "Just until we get back on our feet, son." I kept paying, kept nodding, kept convincing myself this was normal, that this is what family does. What they were doing wasn't asking for help. They were building a system, one where I existed purely to fill the gaps, quietly, consistently. Rachel never struggled the way I did. While I worked 2 jobs through college, she changed majors 3 times and posted beach selfies with captions like "Self-care matters." When she moved back home at 25, nobody blinked. Mom called her our baby like she was still 16. Dad bragged that she's finding herself. And me? I worked, paid, and cleaned up the messes. When their cars broke down, I covered the repairs. When Dad's medical insurance lapsed, I footed the hospital bill. When Rachel overdrafted her bank account again, my number was the one she called. They never said, "Thank you," not really. Instead, they built this quiet entitlement, this expectation that I would always handle it, that I existed to solve problems they created. Big bro's got it. He's always so responsible, you know. "Oh, he's better with money than the rest of us," they said it like compliments, but it was a chain, and I wore it for years. I told myself it was love, that one day they'd realize how much I sacrificed. But every time I thought maybe, just maybe, they saw it, they proved me wrong. 2 months ago, it got worse. Rachel called late one night, 11:42 p.m. "Hey, can you do me a huge favor? The dealership denied my loan. It's stupid, honestly. I just need you to co-sign. I'll handle the payments, swear." I didn't answer right away. She added, "Come on, you know I'm good for it. Please. Dad says it's not a big deal." And like a fool, I signed. Again. A $48,000 SUV, fully loaded, 0 down. She drove it off the lot like she won the lottery. I watched her post story after story, spinning the wheel, posing next to it, adding captions like "Manifestation works when you've got the right people around you." The right people. She meant me. Update. 3 weeks ago, Dad called. "Son, listen, we're applying for a consolidation loan, just for a short period. We need your name on the paperwork to qualify for better rates. Strictly temporary. Trust me. My stomach twisted, but the words came automatically. All right. Because that's who I was to them, automatic, reliable, always available. But nothing prepared me for what arrived last week. A thick envelope, certified mail. Inside, documents transferring over $136,000 in credit card debt, lines of credit, private loans, all bundled neatly under my name. Co-signed, authorized, dated. Multiple signatures, all forged. It wasn't just one mistake. It was deliberate, planned, coordinated. They built this web for months, maybe longer, quietly stacking debts, opening accounts behind my back, funneling balances into my name like I was just another credit tool. They didn't even have the decency to hide it anymore. The final blow came 2 days before Christmas. Rachel texted me again. Guess what, big bro? You pay, I belong. No shame, no hesitation, just bold, unapologetic entitlement. I sat there, staring at her message, while outside, the world was covered in holiday lights, family shopping, kids ice skating, people singing carols. And I was watching my own family gift me 6 figures of debt like it was some twisted holiday tradition. I didn't respond. I didn't drive over with presents. But I did show up on Christmas Eve. I parked across the street. The driveway was packed, Rachel's SUV gleaming under the porch lights like some trophy I bought for her, Dad's truck, Mom's sedan, even Uncle Robert's car. The house was lit up like a magazine cover, perfectly staged for their version of the holidays. I could hear the faint hum of laughter from inside. They didn't know I was coming. I carried one small box, no bags of gifts like every year, no trunk full of surprises, just one box. I rang the bell. The door opened faster than I expected. Mom stood there, silk blouse, wine glass in hand, wearing that plastic smile I'd seen my whole life. Oh, she said, blinking like she wasn't sure if she should act surprised or annoyed, you came. She didn't even move to let me inside. Rachel appeared behind her, grinning like a kid who got away with something. Big bro, she said, look who decided to stop by. I said nothing. Mom finally extended her arm, holding out the box she clearly had waiting. Here's your special gift, honey. She pressed it into my chest and, without waiting for a word, shut the door. The deadbolt clicked. I stood there for a long moment, my breath turning to vapor in the cold December air. Then I opened the box. Inside was a single thick envelope. I knew before I unfolded the documents what it was, the paperwork I had already seen earlier that week, but this time tied up with a crimson ribbon, like they thought packaging the fraud would make it festive. Full legal transfer, $136,482.17 in debt. My debt now. Signed, filed, complete. Merry Christmas. I sat in my car for almost an hour, staring at the papers, staring at the house I'd helped them save when Dad defaulted on his second mortgage, the house where I spent my teenage years skipping meals so Rachel could have dance lessons, the house they locked me out of tonight. And as I sat there, something inside me stopped moving. Not rage, not heartbreak, just stillness. It wasn't the first betrayal. It was simply the last. Christmas morning passed in silence. No calls, no texts. By noon, my credit monitoring app buzzed, new credit inquiry detected. I opened it. They had applied for a home equity loan using my name, my credit score, and my signature, forged again. Another $50,000 request, pending. They weren't done. They were still feeding because they never thought I would stop them. The next day, my phone exploded. First came Dad, son, listen, I know how this looks, but you have to understand, we were consolidating. You know how tough this economy's been. I was going to call you after the holidays. Then Mom, please don't be dramatic, honey. These accounts are temporary. You're just better at managing the payments, that's all. We trust you. And then Rachel, you're overreacting. We're family. You know you always handle the big stuff. That's your role. My role. That's all I was to them, a role, a bank account with a pulse. Not a brother, not a son, not family, just function. The final trigger came 2 days later. Jason, an old friend from college, texted me, yo, man, didn't know you bought your folks a second house. Big moves. Attached was a screenshot, Rachel's Instagram story, her posing in front of a new Craftsman house, bright smile, keys dangling from her manicured fingers, captioned, couldn't have done it without my big brother, the real MVP of the family. And below, in bold, hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, hashtag forever grateful. She tagged me, like it was some accomplishment, like this entire theft was a sweet holiday surprise. Final update. I stared at that picture for a long time. The comments underneath were worse, your brother is such a good man. You're lucky to have him. True family values. No one knew what she meant. They never saw the years of loans, payments, credit cards I cleaned up, the career sacrifices, the empty savings account. They didn't see the blood she wrung from me, only the bow she wrapped it in. That's when the numbness broke. But I didn't yell. I didn't call. I didn't send angry texts. I opened the black folder I'd kept locked for months, the full audit, the transaction trails, the forged authorizations, the accounts open behind my back. Everything I needed to burn their little empire to the ground. I picked up my phone and called Mark, my lawyer. He answered on the second ring. It's time, isn't it? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Start everything. They thought they had me cornered. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this exact moment for years. I let them believe I'd always show up. Until now. It all collapsed faster than I expected. 48 hours after Mark filed the paperwork, the first wave hit, bank accounts frozen, lines of credit suspended, pending fraud investigations opened on every forged signature. I didn't even need to lift a finger. The system took care of it. I sat in my apartment, sipping my coffee, letting the phone vibrate nonstop. Every few seconds, another missed call, another voicemail, another text message full of panic. At 7:13 a.m., Mom called first. Honey, this is all a misunderstanding. We just need you to clear it up with the bank. Please, for the family. At 7:19 a.m., Dad texted, Son, you don't want to do this. There are real consequences. You're going to destroy us. At 7:28 a.m., Rachel, of course, are you serious? You always handle this stuff. You're blowing everything up for no reason. I let the notifications stack. I let them sweat. By noon, they shifted tactics. Mom again, you've always been the strong one. You've always held us together. Please don't throw that away. Dad's follow-up was colder, you're making a permanent mistake. Rachel's text, of course, was pure venom, you're being selfish. Do you even care what happens to us? What happens to me? That was the moment it hit me. Even now, at the edge of financial ruin, they still saw me as responsible for their survival, not responsible in the sense of guilt, responsible as their property, like I was a resource they could drain every time they started dying. The second wave hit that evening. Mark forwarded me the letter from their attorney, we are requesting immediate negotiation to avoid criminal prosecution. Our clients are willing to transfer assets and fully absolve any outstanding debts to settle this matter. Translation, they knew they were screwed. But I wasn't here for a deal. I wasn't here for a payoff. I was here for freedom. At 8:42 p.m., the doorbell rang. I let it ring 3 times. Finally, I answered. Rachel stood there, her usual smug confidence gone, hair pulled back sloppily, eyes red, breathing shaky. Please, she said quietly, can we talk? Just you and me. I didn't move. You've made your point. You're right, okay? Things got out of hand. We needed help, and you always helped. Her voice broke. Dad's panicking. Mom's sick over this. We could lose everything. I could lose everything. I stayed silent. Her eyes darted around, like she was searching for a crack in my face, some opening, some mercy. I'll fix it. I'll move the loans back. We'll put everything in your control. Just stop this, she said it like she was offering me a gift, control. That was always the bait, let me keep the leash, let me hold the noose they tied around my neck for years. But I wasn't here to renegotiate my captivity. No, I said softly. Her breath hitched like I'd slapped her. You're serious? I didn't blink. It's done, Rachel. An hour later, the third wave hit. Their social world began to fracture. The Instagram post was gone. The comment threads exploded, friends asking questions, acquaintances posting thinly veiled subtweets about people who steal from family and pretend it's love. Dad's business partner backed out of their silent agreement. Mom's charity board suspended her position, citing personal legal matters. Rachel's precious online persona started bleeding followers as whispers spread. They built their lives on this curated lie of family perfection, and now the cracks were public. But the loudest silence was from inside the family group chat, the one that once buzzed daily with fake holiday plans, Venmo requests, and passive-aggressive guilt trips. Now, nothing. No Merry Christmas texts, no can you help with next month's rent, no can you spot me for this. Just emptiness. For the first time in years, I could hear my breathing. I made dinner, ate in peace, and drank my coffee while it was still hot. There was no celebration, no triumph, just stillness. And freedom. They thought I'd never leave. They thought I'd never fight. They thought I was too quiet. And now, they know. The fallout didn't end with frozen accounts. It kept bleeding into every corner of their lives. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter from the county, citing foreclosure proceedings initiated on the property located at 481 Crestline Drive, their house. The same house I helped save years ago, the house I bailed out more times than I could count, the house they used to lock me out on Christmas Eve. Now it was slipping through their fingers. The calls never stopped. Dad tried a new angle. Son, don't let pride destroy this family. We can fix this together. Together. The word tasted like acid. Together, when did they forge my name? Together, when they moved 6 figures of debt into my identity. Together, when they posted only, I like I was there willing.